The confirmed number of new coronavirus cases reported in Los Angeles County in the last 24 hours is 1,540, with 11 additional deaths. Here in Torrance, 25 additional cases were reported and no new deaths. Welcome to COVID-19 Today. I'm Rhiannon Trutanich. It's Tuesday, September 7th. Labor Day travel nearly returned to pre-pandemic levels. More than 3.5 million travelers were screened at U.S. airports between Friday and Saturday. LAX Airport tweeted on Saturday morning saying their garages were full and asked travelers to have backup plans for off-site parking, getting a ride, or using the flyaway bus. LAX vaccination sites for COVID-19 were closed for the Labor Day holiday on Monday as well. The Transportation Security Administration says the amount of people traveling this holiday weekend more than doubled that of last year. Public health officials had asked unvaccinated Americans to stay home this Labor Day weekend. Now they worry that with nearly half of the country still not inoculated, the recent spike in travel could soon lead to a rise in more COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. The country's current average of COVID-19 cases is more than 3 times higher than it was 1 year ago. The U.S. 7-day average of new cases on Monday was more than 137,000 compared to less than 40,000 last Labor Day. Millions of more students across the country are returning to school this week. Many of them are under 12 and too young to get vaccinated against COVID-19. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci says adults can play a big role in helping to protect these kids. He recommends surrounding them with vaccinated people, whether they are family, friends, or even school teachers. Dr. Fauci says it's also crucial for children in classrooms to keep wearing their masks. These recommendations come as a recent study from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows more children need emergency room visits and hospitalizations in states with lower vaccination rates. Some states are trying to get as many eligible people vaccinated as possible. In Washington, at least 41% of children between 12 and 15 years old are vaccinated. Some hospitals in the U.S. are reaching capacity as the coronavirus continues to spread. Close to 80% of ICU beds are in use, almost a third of them by COVID-19 patients. 8 states had more than 90% of their adult ICU beds occupied on Sunday. Dr. Fauci warns that officials could soon be forced to make tough choices about who gets an intensive care unit bed. He urges Americans to stay masked and get vaccinated. With Labor Day travels, kids going back to school, the Delta variant, and now the new Mu variant, the CDC predicts COVID-19 deaths will rise this month. The agency says as many as 19,000 more people are expected to die nationwide by September 25th. The sobering forecast comes as the country surpasses 40 million coronavirus cases, with more than 4 million of them reported in the last 4 weeks. Only about 53% of Americans are fully vaccinated, leaving roughly 40% still vulnerable. LA County public health officials are continuing to closely monitor the newest coronavirus strain of interest, saying 167 Mu variants were identified so far in the county between June 19th and August 21st. They also say this variant has key mutations linked to greater transmissibility and could potentially bypass antibodies. They're investigating whether this strain is more contagious, more deadly, or more resistant to vaccine and treatments than other variants. The COVID-19 booster shot from Pfizer will likely be available starting the week of September 20th, and Moderna's vaccine booster could come a week or 2 later. Last month, the Biden administration announced plans to offer third doses to people who receive the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, pending approval from public health officials, recommending that they get the additional dose 8 months after their second shot. Dr. Anthony Fauci says only the Pfizer vaccine booster may get the approval needed from the CDC and the Food and Drug Administration in time for the September 20th rollout, since their data is in and Moderna's is not. He hopes Moderna would also be able to get approval in time for a simultaneous rollout, but if not, he says they could do it sequentially within a week or two. Dr. Fauci also says those who got the Moderna vaccine should wait for its third dose rather than get a Pfizer shot. The U.S. plans to release data in the coming weeks on mixing vaccines from different manufacturers. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is the most widely administered one in the U.S., with more than 95 million people fully vaccinated with it. About 66 million people have gotten both doses of the Moderna vaccine, and 14 million people received the one-dose Johnson & Johnson option. A new study is revealing some people may have superhuman immunity to SARS-CoV-2. According to scientists, a new study published online in Science last month found that people who were infected with COVID-19 in 2020 and then immunized with mRNA vaccines this year had remarkable responses to the vaccine. The antibodies found in those with this combination could possibly even fight off a virus engineered on purpose to be highly resistant to neutralization. This virus contains 20 mutations that are known to prevent SARS-CoV-2 antibodies from binding to it, and antibodies from people who were only vaccinated or only had prior COVID infections were not able to fight the mutant virus equally as those with the hybrid immunity. Researchers say these findings show how powerful the mRNA vaccines can be in people with prior exposure to COVID. Now, what the study didn't find was whether everyone who had been exposed to the virus would have a remarkable immune response, as it's only been studied with a few patients due to its time-intensive and difficult research. Immunologists who were part of this study say a third booster shot is likely to help a person's antibodies evolve even further, offering even more protection. COVID-19 is doing a lot more than threatening people's health. It's posing a threat to many of their jobs. As employers face worker shortages and higher labor costs, companies are starting to automate service sector jobs. Inspecting gauges, sorting goods, and even tossing pizza dough can now be done through automation. Experts say such technology can wipe out less skilled jobs that many low-income workers depend on, which could result in growing pains for the U.S. economy. Employers making the investment on these robots say less people are needed now, and they don't have to worry about anyone calling out sick or spreading COVID-19 to coworkers. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of these high-tech machines and could threaten humans looking for work as sales clerks, administrative assistants, cashiers, and caretakers for the sick and elderly. Employers in general seem eager to bring on this type of change. A survey last year by the World Economic Forum found that 43% of companies plan to reduce their workforces as a result of new technology. Since the second quarter of 2020, business investment in equipment has increased by 26%, more than twice as fast as the overall economy. The fastest growth is expected in the roving machines that clean the floors of hospitals, supermarkets, and warehouses. The U.S. economy lost 22.4 million jobs in March and April of 2020. Since then, employers brought back 17 million jobs, but in June they posted a record 10.1 million job openings and have been expressing concerns that they can't find enough people to work. A substitute teacher shortage across California is becoming a burden on top of an already challenging school year. Administrators are taking desperate steps to make sure there is an adult in the classroom when teachers are absent, even resorting to non-teaching staff who have to step outside of their roles to fill in. Brett McFadden, a superintendent in Northern California, says they had to go back to distance learning because of a lack of substitutes, not protective equipment. He even admitted to subbing for a class himself. He works for the Nevada Joint Union High School District, which went from having about 200 substitute teachers to 70, forcing principals to take the place of absent administrators and counselors, and still lacking enough adults to keep campuses operable. California has seen a decline in new substitute teachers every year. Over the most recent years, permits issued to substitute teachers dropped by more than 25%, from 64,000 in 2018 to 2019 to less than 47,000 in the 2020 to 2021 school year. Some substitute teachers leaving their jobs say the pay was not worth the risk of being surrounded by unvaccinated students and staff, and many are reluctant to return because they're making more money from unemployment benefits. In an effort to entice some of them back into the classroom, school districts are raising pay, some more than $100 a day for long-term subs. Other school districts invested up to $12,000 for digital billboards to advertise its substitute positions on freeways. Administrators are also asking the Commission for Teacher Credentialing to remove barriers such as the $100 fee and the requirement for a bachelor's degree to become a licensed substitute, saying some states don't require it. Educators hope these changes could help attract more candidates to help their teachers and students. The Torrance City Council will not meet tonight as it is a previously scheduled dark night. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 14th inside the council chambers. The public portion of the meeting will begin promptly at 6:30 p.m. The summer months have led to animal shelters nationwide nearing capacity as more people return their pandemic pets. The Wags and Walks Adoption Center in LA received double the number of calls from people who couldn't care for their dogs anymore compared to pre-pandemic days. And in New York City, 1,393 animals were surrendered at animal care centers in June, more than twice the amount seen in February. Returning to the office and resuming social activities may be partly to blame. In fact, pet sitters say they've been busier than ever, checking in with animals that aren't used to being alone and taking care of them. The LA County Animal Care and Control officials say surrenders of dogs to shelters have spiked in recent months. Their owners in poor communities have lost their income and even their homes during that time. 7 of the county's animal shelters are trying a new approach now in an effort to deter surrenders. Those wanting to give up their cats and dogs must make an appointment, and shelter workers can assess whether they can help the pets stay with their owners by providing them help with veterinary bills, food, supplies, or even training for animals with behavioral issues. 1.5 million shelter animals are estimated to be euthanized in the U.S. every year. Well, before we go, at the end of each program, we like to share feel-good stories from our community. Pictures, images, and videos that remind us of how resilient our community is and how Torrance truly cares. An 8-year-old Labrador retriever named Ray was abandoned by his family and wandering alone on the streets of Torrance when workers from the Carson Animal Shelter found him. He was in bad health with crusty eyes, an extremely thin frame, and patches of fur missing around his body. Shelter volunteers helped Ray to regain his health and put him up for adoption. Although senior dogs are not as likely to be adopted, we are told that Ray did find his forever home. What a relief knowing this Torrance dog will not have to be alone on the streets anymore and has a warm place to call home. Now, if you have a great story, upcoming event, a photo or video you'd like to share, email us at covid19today@torranceca.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Well, that's our update for COVID-19 today. We'll see you back here tomorrow as Christine Lee brings you the latest. Be safe, stay healthy, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.